Are physical games going away for good? And if you didn't buy an SSD, you're really gonna need one now. The PS Plus Essential Games have actually leaked. And also down in the description, I have a ton of links to controllers, SSDs, TVs, monitors, headsets, any accessory you need for your PS5, I have a link for it down in the description. So if you wanna help me out, use those links. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. It's Halloween. I'm dressed as a normal, sane person. Ray is dressed as something.
Gutski.
Sure. Anyways, if you live in a German-speaking country, I really hope you didn't buy a disc-based PS5 because EA just decided that they are no longer going to be selling disc-based games there.
I mean...
It's like Germany, Austria, and some other place.
Is there a specific reason why they decided to go with this region first, discless game distribution?
They say it's basically because of falling game sales physically, which... I don't know, people maybe just aren't walking their way over to Game. That's what they call it in Europe. It's Game instead of GameStop. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's interesting.
It's called Game. It's in purple.
Are you accusing gamers of being lazy?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they just want to download their games. This is crazy, though, because we've never really seen something like this. The only thing that I can think of where this has happened, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is like Halo Infinite shipping a disc that just has an activation key on it, or like PC games. Back when Steam became the ubiquitous like main app, you would buy a disc, and instead of it like you put the disc in your PC, it would have a little label with a Steam key on there, and then you put the disc in to like install the game if you didn't want to download it.
Yeah, remember when sometimes you get cases filled with like 3 or 4 discs that you needed for installation? And now it's like you don't need any discs.
Yeah, I'm gonna narc on myself a little bit. One time I was at GameStop and in like high school, and I was like just looking in the cases, and I saw that they left the label on the Skyrim box. So I just took the label and tried, and it worked.
Nice, dude. You got to do what you got to do, because like, especially back,
it wasn't even like I needed it. Like I had a job. I just wanted to see. I was like, did someone beat me to this? Because I got it. It was like well after the game had come out. But yeah, so. In these German-speaking countries, now you're just going to have to download your games, which is good for SSD companies because the PS5 only has 700 gigabytes of usable space.
Well, it's like you needed to download the game anyway, regardless. I mean, even if you had a disc, you still had to install the game. And it's like, gone are the days of running a game off of a disc, which is sad because I wish that was still around.
That's the cool thing about the Switch. I mean, there are a few games, right? Well, the way the Switch does it is some games like Resident Evil collection of the Resident Evil Revelations games. That was the weirdest roundabout way to say that. If you bought those games on Switch, or the collection of Resident Evil Classic Collection, which is like Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil Zero Remake, you would get one of the games on a cartridge and then download codes for the other ones. But with a game like The Witcher 3, they made a big deal out of the fact that the whole game was on the cartridge, and then they released a performance patch that made it a little bigger, but it wasn't that big of a deal if you didn't download that patch. So you could just like pop in The Witcher 3 on your Switch, and that is the whole ass game, which is pretty cool because it's just on the cartridge.
What do you expect the reaction from the gaming community to be on this news?
If they did this in America, people would be pissed.
Yeah, I mean, opinion of EA is pretty poor as it is right now. It's, I would say, in the gutter almost.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens after Dead Space Remake and Jedi Survivor come out, because those are the two most hyped games they have. And I think they're in a turnaround period, really, just because of that. They just announced another alpha update for their new Dragon Age game. We know they're bringing back the Mass Effect people like. They're not working on some live service garbage. Like, I feel like they realize how screwed they are in terms of gamers' minds.
They done pissed me off when I tried to download one of their games via my Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription that includes EA Play, and they were like, oh, you can't do it, sorry, because you have an EA Play account linked to your Xbox account that I didn't have access to. Like, I didn't have the email, and they refused to help me. I was on the phone with them for like an hour, chatting with them for another hour, and they were like, yeah, we can't give you the email that's associated with this. I was like, but it's my email. And they were just like, nope, can't do it. So I can't play EA games as part of my PC Game Pass.
That's similar to the fact that I can't change that voice on my TikTok app to Ghostface, I feel.
Is it?
On par.
On par?
On par.
Like,
scenario.
I can't play Dragon Age Inquisition on my PC, and you can't
I can't make Ghostface say quotes from the Batman. But yeah, so if you live in this German-speaking area of Europe, you're going to have to go all digital, baby. I'm sorry about that. But I don't even know how many PS5s there are sold there, so If you're in one of those countries, let us know in the comments how much this is affecting your day-to-day life. But do it in English.
It's tough. It's tough because I get it. Physical sales of games are on the decline, but at the same time, we both separately run into the situation of you go and you see the digital price of the game and you're like, hold on, that's whack. And then you go and buy the physical version of it at GameStop, at Target, wherever, and it's way cheaper. And that's what's awesome about physical games.
Yeah. I love physical games. I buy all of my PlayStation games physically, actually. I don't really have any of them digitally, because I like the way the cases look when they're all lined up on my shelf. But the next story we have is that the November PS Plus games have leaked, kind of. They just like got tweeted out early by PlayStation. And it's another... If you're an Essential, I think you're going to be a little pissed at this month, just looking at these games. So what you're getting is Nioh 2. You're also getting the Lego Harry Potter collection and a game called Heavenly Bodies, which I'm assuming is a new game because they usually have like some new game included every month. Nioh 2, it's not a bad game. It's a great game, actually. It's just like it's been on sale for nothing like so many times. Like I've seen the Nioh and Nioh 2 collection for PS5 on sale for $10 like very frequently. So that just feels like a cop-out type of game. Lego Harry Potter, they're just like kind of upscaled versions of the old Harry Potter games. They're not like remade like the Skywalker Saga. And I don't know anything about Heavenly Bodies, but it's an indie game, so like people don't usually get super excited about indie games on PlayStation Plus.
No. In fact, if you look on Twitter, people are always making fun of indie games on Game Pass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what? Like what's a recent one? What's a recent example?
Oh God, I mean, Pentiment.
Oh, people are mad about Pentiment?
People were mad about Pentiment. I mean, even though it's not an indie studio, it's Obsidian, but people are like, that game looks like totally freaking indie. I mean, that's just the narrative. Yeah, Lego Harry Potter 2, I mean,
it's both of them. It's both collections. You get all 7 years of Harry Potter, I want to say.
All 7?
All
you can
8
go
movies?
through the Hogwarts educational system, but in a Lego form?
Yep.
I don't know. The only game I'd really be interested in is Nioh 2.
Yeah.
2. I've never played it before. The other ones, I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't really tip the scales for me just yet. But we haven't reached November, so they could be adding more stuff that we don't know about.
I'm also not sure if Nioh 2 had DLC, because usually what they like doing is taking these older games and then putting the base model on there without their DLC. And I know that pisses people off because they've done it with like Mortal Kombat X and Injustice 2. They just did recently where like they put it on there with none of the DLC. But these are old ass games that they could totally just put the Ultimate Edition on there. But I'm sure like part of the agreement they had to make with Warner Brothers Games was like, yeah, you can put Injustice on there, but it's got to be the base model so people can buy the DLC on top of it. But yeah, this is kind of like a lot of people's fears coming true when the new PS Plus was announced with the extra and premium. People were like, is this going to turn into games with gold where like we get games in the free or cheapest category and then we got to like pay more to get the big library of games? And you know, judging by the past few months, they did have God of War, which was really cool. That was a big inclusion. But other than that, a lot of the best games are showing up in the extra tier when they add new games to the library. When you pair that with the fact that they've kind of been taking away expiration dates for games on PS Plus's library, they're doing some sneaky stuff behind the scenes over there at PlayStation. And I really think they got to start figuring out how to get better games back on the essential tier, because people are going to get really upset. I'd like to see the Shadow of the Colossus remake. I don't know if it's shown up on there, but I've seen that on sale for like $10 frequently, and I think that's one of Bluepoint's better games. I'd also like to see some of these PS5 games that are in the extra tier, like maybe Demon Souls or Returnal. It'd be cool to see them get punted down a tier after being on the extra tier for a certain amount of time, just because that creates a different situation with these PS5 games. Like, are PS5 games only allowed to be on extra, or after a while could they actually put them on essential for people who haven't played them yet? Obviously they want to keep them on extra because they reserve the right to take those games off of the service at any time, but if you give it to someone through essential, it's in their account forever as long as they're paying.
Yeah, I mean, this for me would probably be more of a premium tier because of the backwards compatibility aspect.
Yeah, the only tier I would feel like content paying for right now is extra, just because the library is so big. They add so many games. You also get the trickle down of like getting the essential games, even though they're not great. If I was paying for premium, I'd be pissed, because I don't know. If you're not using cloud streaming, the only draw of premium is those classic games, and they're just not adding them.
Good times over on PS Plus. Could be better. I mean, the library of games on Extra especially is
very good.
Pretty dang good. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
I ain't
if you
gonna lie.
skip
As
the PS4 generation, oh my god.
Yeah, as someone who has Game Pass and PS Plus Extra, I'm like, okay, like, I mean, they really do complement each other well in terms of filling in content gaps. You know, they have stuff on PlayStation that you can't play on Game Pass, and they have stuff on Game Pass you can't play on PlayStation Extra. So,
and then you got Deathloop, which is on both. So the next story here, last week I did a little segment where I said, hey guys, you're probably going to want to buy an SSD sooner rather than later because we're in the changeover period. New models are coming out. The old models, which are still more than adequate, are falling in price. You can get my fan favorite, the Samsung 980 Pro, for around $240 now. I've seen it fall as low as $230 in some places. And now you're going to see why, because Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, inarguably the biggest game other than Elden Ring of 2022, I think it will end up beating Elden Ring in sales just because it's a good Call of Duty, unlike Vanguard. This game has 70 megabytes of data on its disk, and you have to install 150 gigabytes just to get the story and the multiplayer. And that does not include Warzone or DMZ, which are coming with Season 1. And I would guess that since Warzone 2 is so much bigger than the last Warzone, that's going to add at least another 100 gigabytes of data to the overall install file. So you're talking about almost 300 gigabytes of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 used on your console storage, which is not exactly half. It's about, I would say, 40% of your console storage, which, you know, games are getting bigger. So if you have Call of Duty, that leaves very little space for you to install other games.
And we know that Call of Duty has a huge player base on Sony thanks to these proceedings with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. So we know a lot of people are going to be playing Call of Duty on PlayStation. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and they had this issue. This was a really big issue during the 2020 year with, Warzone coming out and people loving that. Also, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 was a huge file size, and they ended up reducing it a little bit, but it was seriously getting to like 270, 280 gigs at one point. And Destiny 2 had the exact same issue where I think at that game's peak it was something like 190 gigabytes. So they ended up taking out a bunch of planets from the game and it dropped it to like 80, which is still a lot. And then it kind of like tapered back down with the launch of the new consoles, and now it's just like skyrocketing back up, which is funny because what we heard when the new consoles came out is that, oh, the new SSD technology we're using is only going to make games smaller, and that
remember that?
Like 60 FPS that lasted about 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I was so excited for this generation because coming from an Xbox One, but that only had 512 gigabytes, I was like, wow, a terabyte on my Xbox and then sort of less than a terabyte on my PS5. The possibilities are endless. I'm going to have so much room. And it's like, actually, no. It's like you're still going to have all the same problems of shuffling your games, uninstalling them, moving your old games to an external drive. And then it's just the dance never stops.
Right. And the cool thing about the PS5 is the numbers you need for the PS5's SSD are so much higher than you would ever really use on a PC or anything like that. So if you do buy one of these upscale SSDs like the Samsung 980 or 990 or the SN850 or any of these other drives, you're going to be able to use those for a long time. Like even after you stop potentially using your PS5, you can pop that drive out and just throw it in a laptop or a PC and it'll last for a really long time. So if you do want to upgrade your storage, which I think you should, I would probably still recommend the Samsung 980 Pro, which at the time of this video is around $250. It's going to be $280 for the 2 terabyte of the 990 Pro when that drops at the beginning of November. So you're in that little lull where you can still get the 980 for a good price. The SN850, the WD Black whatever edition, they have the PS edition that's $10 more. I think it's like $270 retail, and then the regular edition, which is exactly the same, is around $250. And if you like the Fire Cuda branding, you can go with the 2 terabyte option for around $250. So really, if you waited and got a PS5 for retail and you were going to get one scalped at one point for around $700, you're only going to end up paying like $50 more just by getting a 2 terabyte drive. And of course, as always, all these drives are linked in the description. And if you use those links, I get a little bit of a kickback, which is awesome. And the last story is we finally have our confirmation on Call of Duty and PlayStation. Phil Spencer just did a talk at the Wired what was it called?
The Wall Street Journal Live. It was a tech edition. So it was tech, but Also, Bob Chapek from Disney was there.
Yeah,
And
he dropped some wisdom like when kids go to bed after watching Pinocchio, their parents can watch She-Hulk. It's like awesome, dude.
no one's doing that, bro.
So Phil Spencer dropped a lot of nuggets, right? Like we know that Game Pass is profitable. We talked about this over on Xbox Ready. That's good. He said it's kind of capping out on the console side of things. Like they've reached the amount of users that they think will subscribe to it. But over on PC, where you've got over 250 million gaming PCs, it's kind of exploding thanks to the fact that their app doesn't suck anymore. Another cool detail though is about Call of Duty, where he basically just reiterated what he's been reiterating for months now, which is that Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation. They cannot afford not to have it on PlayStation. And to prove it, he said he also wants to bring it to the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, he pinky promised. Super.
He called you up
super
on
high
stage,
level.
said, Ray, Mr. Xbox Ready, come here. I got a pinky swear with you that I will keep it on PlayStation.
Like,
and you're
I
like,
got you,
I don't
bro.
care. I have an Xbox channel.
I'm like, I got you, bro.
I play on Xbox.
So yeah, I mean, we had previously been hearing reports about. Well, at first when we heard that the deal was, happening or in the first stages, a bunch of people were like, is it going to be exclusive to Xbox?
Yeah.
That was the big question. And a lot of people on the Xbox side were like, they wanted, so before I go on, like, I just need to reiterate that I think the console war stuff is just the dumb. Like, it can get the discourse on the console war side of things is just stupid.
The chronically online discourse surrounding
I just
console wars
cannot
is
do it. I'm getting very burned out and fatigued by the discourse surrounding this. Discourse, not Discord. Sorry. So I will say before I just wanted to say that before again, because on the Xbox side, when this was first happening, people were like, they want Xbox to go for the kill. You don't spend $70 billion and not make something exclusive. But as the deal went on, it became clear, like, for Xbox, for Microsoft, it does not make sense to take something like Call of Duty off of over the 100 million PlayStations that are out there. Dude, like, that would not make sense financially for them.
And they already have a great marketing pitch by saying you can pay $70 to $100 on PlayStation 5, or you can play it day one on Game Pass starting at $1 a month.
Yeah, and I think that's the fear from Sony, right? Is that, oh man, they're gonna put it on Game Pass, and we're gonna have to figure something out on our end with the new PlayStation Plus.
And I like how no one's pointing out that they're gonna patch Fallout 4, which is an old game at this point. They're giving it a next gen patch that improves resolution, frame rate, and cleans up bugs. They're doing that on PS5 too.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that.
They're updating it and that was another worry brought up by Sony to the CMA, saying like, oh, our Xbox people, once this deal will go through, going to get exclusive content. Is it going to run better on Xboxes and things like that? And it appears that that's just fear-mongering at this point, right? Like, it's just fear-mongering. Obviously, the possibility is there, and then later on, we've got reports of like, oh, well, they only intended to honor the next 3 years of the deal of Call of Duty on PlayStation. After that, Jim Ryan was like, oh, the terms were unacceptable, and they were inadequate on many levels.
They're going to honor the deal they have, which is a bunch of exclusive content and early access on PlayStation, which, like, if they're going to not do that after 3 years, I don't care. I don't, like, need that exclusive access. That's honestly kind of annoying.
So, yeah, some good news. Like, not only is Call of Duty seemingly staying on PlayStation consoles, but maybe making its way over to other consoles as well. The Switch. Good news all around. I mean, they say they want to treat Call of Duty like Minecraft, and Minecraft has been fully supported on all consoles.
It's like most played Nintendo game or something.
I don't play it on consoles, but I have heard that there has been some issues with like the console version versus the Bedrock and versus the other edition and things like that. And that sometimes the support can be whack, but it's at least consistent and even.
Yeah.